Oilers Live Podcast. Oilers Live Podcast.
Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here from Oilers Live with a Wednesday edition of Oilers Live Tuesday following a game night. So, no, you didn't get the night wrong. It is Wednesday night. Oilers, of course, coming off another loss, this time to the Buffalo Sabres, 3-1, and Eric Comrie in net, who absolutely stole the show in the third period. I've got as my guest tonight Mr. Jared Ellis, who is the host of Locked On Hurricanes, coming to us live from Raleigh, Carolina. It's late there, as you can see in the background. Probably the family's asleep, and you're taking the time to join us. Appreciate that, and thank you for doing that in advance of a game tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Mountain at Rogers Place, where the Carolina Hurricanes come into town. They are 3-0.
Yeah, not a problem. The dogs are asleep. One is to my right, one is behind me. Girlfriend is asleep in the bedroom. So, yeah, it's late here. I got my cup of coffee right here next to me and ready to talk some hockey with you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining, Jared. I really appreciate it. And it's the Carolina Hurricanes are coming into town riding 3 wins in a row. Pretty big deal. Although I would say they haven't really played any powerhouses of yet. But probably a big thing in that is each game has come with only 1 goal against.
Yeah. That was something I was talking about on either the episode that came out today or yesterday. I don't remember which one, but I did mention of how, they are 3-0 right now, which is great. Obviously, I'm never going to deny that, but they haven't had like a big test yet. And then now they got Edmonton and then Calgary coming up right after. Those are going to be big tests to see how these new guys are meshing together. And, where is my notebook? Because I actually, the other day, talking about the Hurricanes just in the month of October, you mentioned they're 3-0 so far now. Actually, since 2018, hold on, here's my notebook. Let me read this stat to you. Where is it? I think it was because they're actually since 2018, they are actually killing it in the month of October. And where is it? They've won the past 12 straight games in the month of October. Okay, I can't find the actual stat in here.
That's still ridiculous, right?
Yeah, an absolute crazy just win streak in the month of October. I know it's I think at the time when I read it, I think it was 24 wins in the month of October since 2018, and I think now it would be 25 with the win the other day.
That's crazy, and of course they've had really good team of late. They've been pretty consistent. Obviously, not quite doing what you'd hope as far as playoff success goes, but they've been so consistent as a regular season team. I guess I'm not super surprised that they've had such a great start. What do you think it is? I mean, this team, obviously, this is the tale of two teams here. We got the Oilers, who can't seem to find any consistency, but had a little bit of fortune in the playoffs last season. But the Carolina Hurricanes are, a model consistent team the last couple of years. what is it? Is it foundationally? Is it leadership? I mean, obviously we've had a bit of a change on defense. Like what kind of things do you think are playing into that?
I think it's a number of things. I think first and foremost, it came from front office and head coaching.
Yeah.
When Tom Dunham bought the team from Carmanos, getting Francis out, putting Waddell in, getting Bill Peters out as head coach, bringing Brendamore in that regard, and having that good, strong foundation and building a winning culture. And going back to that first team of Brendamore, whenever he was head coach, having Justin Williams as your captain. I think he was a great guy to have there to just install some leadership there in the young guys at the time who have now taken over leadership roles, like Sebastian Aho being an alternate captain, Jacob Slavin as well, Jordan Martinook, having guys to learn from. Andrei Svechnikov, a rookie at that time, and you can kind of see how he's taking on more of a leadership role now. And then just as the years have gone on, building around those young guys, building around Aho, building around Svechnikov, building around Slavin, and now you have Seth Jarvis in the fold as well, surprising everyone last year, building around him, and something that Don Waddell talked about in an intermission interview on opening night was bringing in key veteran guys like Brent Burns, like Paul Stastny, and building around your core group of guys and just having a good mix of young guys and veterans to get you over that hump. One thing, I think it was last season, our color commentator, Trip Tracy, he had Steven Stamkos on his show, and Stamkos likened the Hurricanes to like those mid 2000s Lightning's team where they're like super, super good, but they were almost struggling to get over that playoff hump.
Yep.
And just reminding him of those teams he was a part of. And I think that is high regard because those were really good teams.
Yeah, and the Hurricanes have been, just absolutely fantastic. And I think like you look at their trade history as well, and Waddell's done just such an immaculate job of like bringing in, like winning every trade that he's had for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And not not by a lot, but it's just a matter of bringing in something that makes a difference to the Hurricanes, and removing maybe something from the roster that might have been some work or wasn't needed at the time.
The Victor Rask, Niederreiter trade that everyone likes to talk about.
yeah, and I mean, you look at, I think maybe the only one in that whole list of trades in the last couple of years that is yet to sort of see either way is maybe the Fogle and Bear trade. Talking about going into the game tomorrow night. I mean, Bear's been a healthy scratch. Any word as to whether he'll play tomorrow night in Edmonton?
So far, I have not heard anything as far as whether or not he'll be playing tomorrow. I know, speaking of that opening night intermission interview, Waddell said that team we saw then may not be the same team we see whenever they come back from their road trip, that they could be making some moves. Guys could be AHL or potentially a trade, whatever it may be. So I haven't heard anything. Obviously, Dylan Coughlin slotted in for the first time this season against
and he came
Seattle
over with
the other
Burns
night.
as well, right?
No, he came over in the Max Pacioretty
Oh, the
trade.
Pacioretty trade. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. It was Pedersen that came over in the Burns trade. But I do think that we'll likely see a different shakeup on that third pairing. Jalen Chatfield has been playing great so far in the first 3 games this year, so it wouldn't surprise me if we still see him. But as far as Bear slotting in, I think he's got to at some point just to kind of see where he's going to be at. Obviously, last season he started off really good, but then he got COVID, was out for a while, and just never really got back from it. I really thought, honestly, that him not playing at all in the playoffs was kind of sealing his fate in terms of his future here, but he did end up signing an extension, so they do obviously still see potential in him. It's just, well, whether or not he's going to reach that potential here, because in the preseason, yes, it is preseason, but he didn't look great. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with him.
Yeah. Yeah, he was, I mean, obviously he had a bit of a shaky time. There were some incidents in Alberta that I think sort of maybe swayed and helped the decision for them to move him on. But he was coming along in his own. I'm a little bit surprised at the at where he's been in the Hurricanes lineup. You know, I know he's away from home, so maybe that's has some effect. But there's a lot of potential with that player that a lot of Oilers fans would love, and the way he plays the puck and his patience with the puck. He really came into his own, and then you know, was traded away, obviously. And with Fogle, you know, I'm kind of curious. I mean, I've heard it said, but he was, you know, kind of inconsistent in Carolina as well, and you know, he's had stretches where he's been an excellent third liner and somebody that can play, you know, up the lineup a little bit when needed, but then he's got stretches where you don't even see him, and he's, you know, last night he gave a bit of a suicide pass to one of our rookies on the team that we probably won't see tomorrow night in Dylan Holloway.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, yeah, and
Sounds about right.
It sounds about right. So you know, I mean, it's I'm curious how that trade ends up playing out. I mean, it's not, you know, a groundbreaking trade, but it is one that ties the team. There's actually, given the fact that in 2006 the Hurricanes were successful in beating the Edmonton Oilers for the Stanley Cup, and I hate bringing up old wounds for those Oilers fans listening right now, but there's been a lot of tie-ins, you know, including as you know, I used to get chirped about Draisaitl all the time as being the one that got away from the Carolina Hurricanes in that draft, and they had a shot at Draisaitl. So, you know, as we were talking about at a former Hurricanes podcast, they used to call him German Gretzky, and every time I talked to them, they were a little bit sore about the about this Draisaitl draft. So you've got,
what year did he get drafted?
Was 20. Oh, geez, of course, 2016. I want to say.
I was gonna say is mid 2010s.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was 2016. 2014. Sorry, I'm
14.
I'm
Oh,
way
wow, the
too
year I
far.
graduated high school.
Right on. Right on. So you had a chance. So, look, your Carolina Hurricanes are coming in. They're, you know, defensively they've been pretty decent, I would suspect, if they're only giving away one goal a game. Svechnikov, though, is leading the charge with 5 points. Nikas is there as well at 5. Like, who are the players that you know? Obviously, I think most people know who Svechnikov is. Who else should we be watching?
Yeah, so with the Hurricanes right now, Andrei Svechnikov, he's on a tear to open up the season. He was coming off a 3-point, second period against the Kraken. He had 2 goals in a little over a minute in that game, and he's on a tear this season. Martin Necas as well. He was the guy that heading into the season that he really needed to step up his game. He had a down year last year. He didn't live up to the expectations that people had for him. So far this season to open up the year, he's been really good. Sebastian Aho, in the past, he's had slow starts to the season. We obviously know how good he can be, but in the month of October, sometime in the past, he's been a bit slow to start. That hasn't been the case this year and last year. So you obviously got to watch out for the big name guys, of course. I think that you also need to watch out for Seth Jarvis. He's in his second year already, and yeah, he's picking up where he left off last year. And yeah, he had a lot of momentum going in the playoffs. He scored the first goal of the season for the Hurricanes, and the roof blew off PNC Arena whenever he did that. That was super fun.
Yeah.
He obviously netted a goal against the Kraken the other night. He's going to be a guy to watch, not only in this game, but all season long. I think he's in for a big season. I also think a couple guys you need to watch out for is one is the big name, one's not, is Brent Burns and Stefan Nazin. Both of those guys, they've just been going 110 miles an hour. Brent Burns logging, tons of ice time, tons of shots, and he got his first point as a Hurricane the other night on one of Svechnikov's goals. I think it was the power play goal. He got his first point as a Hurricane. I think it's just a matter of time before the floodgates open for him. And Stefan Nazin, he's slotting in right now for Andre Kasha, who's out with a concussion. He's another guy. He has just been going super, super hard. And I just feel it's a matter of time for him before he ends up just having the floodgates open. He had 2 points in that game against the Kraken, and it's just a matter of time for both of those guys, really. And the second line as a whole is also could potentially be the Hurricanes' best line this year. The Svechkov, Kotkaniemi, and Natchez line. It could very well be the Hurricanes' best line this year. It is looking phenomenal so far this year.
And so, I mean, this is the year, right? Like, Kotkaniemi was, I think maybe a bit of a disappointment last year, right? In terms of what might have been expected, or like, how did you feel about
his first half of the season? It was a mixed bag of a season. I wouldn't say it was an outright disappointment because you kind of knew what you were getting. There's obviously a lot of potential with the player. I mean, they gave him that offer sheet. They signed him to an 8-year extension. They know the potential is there. And in the second half of the season, he really started to settle into his role, get used to the system, and understand what's expected of him. And he's kind of having to make up ground in terms of his development. The Hurricanes are an organization as a whole that's great at developing young talent. The list, it's a very long list. We'd be here till it's time to end the broadcast of players that have came from that system. Whereas Montreal, not necessarily the best at developing young talent. So he was having to make up some ground there, and now he's had a full year in the Hurricane system, so he's used to it. He's in like his long-term role now. They had a feeling that Trocheck wasn't going to be back, and then they knew he wasn't going to be back. He didn't want to play in Raleigh. He wanted to play in a big market, and that meant Kotkaniemi. He's slotting up into that second line center role, and so far he's done really, really well. And like I said, last season, a bit of a mixed bag, but that's kind of what you expected last year.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm not too surprised. He's obviously there for a little while. You spoke about the prospect pool, and every time I look at the Hurricanes lineup, I look at this as like not a very North American lineup in terms of like comparably to other teams in the league. And you look down, their prospect mix is very much the same. Yet they've, somebody like Sutter, who you're going to see shortly in Calgary, he loves his Western Canadian kids and having them in the lineup. How does this team play? Do you think they play a different style because it's, predominantly in the top six, European style, European players?
I don't necessarily think so. Obviously, every team has their own style of play, but they honestly play a game very similar to their head coach's game back in the day. That they play a very similar game to that of a very hard-hitting, fast-paced type game. And, that's really just how they play, and they suffocate you on defense. Brendan Moore was a back-to-back Selke Trophy winner for a reason back in the day, and they play like their head coach. And there's obviously times where I wish they're a bit more physical, and that's something that as the years have gone on, they've got better at. If we remember back to like the bubble season, I think it was 2019, 2020.
Yep.
They're kind of getting pushed around a bit that year. And then, the year after, last year. They've definitely gotten some more grit to them. I think that's something that kind of comes with age, with some of those younger players, and then bringing guys in. But again, they play a game similar to their head coach, and yeah, that's really how they play. That's the easiest way to explain it. They play like their head coach did.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Brindamore. I mean, he's what in his what years he
Early
been in?
50s.
Pardon me.
I thought you were talking about age. He's in his 5th year as head coach. His 18-19 was his first year as head coach.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and so, what's your feelings on Brindamore? I mean, is this a guy that obviously, when there's a lot of success, you don't have people shouting for the head coach's job. Waddell's come in and done, a really good job as well. But for the most part, would you say Canes fans are pretty happy with the body of work that Brindamore has brought to the table?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot to say there. They're absolutely satisfied with what he has done with this team. He's been instrumental in turning this team around. He took a team, whenever, that 2018-2019 team, whenever they went back to the playoffs after a decade, if you remember, it was talked about a lot that postseason. The Blues were in last place on January 1st. The Hurricanes were second to last place. Hurricanes went to the conference finals. Blues won the Stanley Cup. He's done a lot to turn this team around. And even heading into his head coaching role, he had the faith of the fans for everything he did on the ice for the organization back in the day, as well as some of his other roles with the organization as well. I mean, he's been a part of this franchise for almost all of it. He came over in 2000. It's 2022. They're in their 25th anniversary here in Raleigh. He's been a part of.
Is it really 25 already?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the 25th season. Yeah. He's been a part of almost all of it. He's regarded as the greatest Hurricane for a reason. His on the ice stuff and now his head coach stuff as well. There's really not a bad thing to say. And whenever the team is in a rut, it's never calling for Rod's head, because everyone knows, like, all right, he knows what to do to get the best out of the players. It's just getting to that point,
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. So I'm kind of curious. I mean, this is a team that's finished first, a couple seasons in a row. A kind of a favorite to do that again, I think, this year, or at least be in the mix. What weaknesses are there? Like, if the Oilers come out tomorrow night, I don't know how much you've been following them this year, but the challenge was the same as of last year. I think I saw a stat. We're about third or fourth in line out of the past season and a bit for allowing the first goal. That's the Oilers' big weakness. What's a weakness on this Carolina team? Something that needs to be addressed, do you think?
So far this season, it's obviously still very, very early on in the year. So Hurricanes' weaknesses, Oilers' weaknesses, they can be something that can be improved upon as the season goes on. This is 4th game of the season for these teams, so it's still very early. But honestly, I would say for the Hurricanes, it's the same thing as the Oilers, giving up the first goal and just having slow starts to the game. That was a criticism I had last year. You look at the games, the first 2 games against Columbus and against San Jose. Yeah, they're able to come back and win. That's great. But that's not something that's always going to be able to happen. And you can't always play from behind. And that's something that the Hurricanes need to work on, is avoiding slow starts. That's going to be the big thing right now, in my opinion. And obviously, for folks, criticize power play. I have so far this season, not overly, because it is still very early on in the season. A lot of new folks there, folks, trying to gel together, feel each other out. And, in the Seattle game, they went 2 for 5 on the power play, which is good. I do think that first unit can be one of the best in the NHL with Svechnikov, Burns, Jarvis, and I forget the other guys on it. But yeah, that's a unit that could be one of the best in the NHL, and they really looked like it the other night, which is really good. But yeah, I would say the biggest thing right now is just getting off to slow starts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is.
And I know that's kind of an easy one to say,
Yeah.
but you know, the Hurricanes are loaded defensively. They're
Yeah.
super deep at forwards. Goaltending's top notch with Freddie Anderson and Antti Ranta.
Yeah.
Not a whole
Ranta,
lot of weaknesses as far as like the lineup goes.
Yeah.
It's really just a lot of new guys, and they're still just kind of trying to get used to playing with each other. And it's one thing going against, you know, Columbus, San Jose, or Seattle, but Edmonton and Calgary, those are going to be the two big tests to start off the season, especially with a big road trip like this to start out your season.
Yeah. Yeah. And sorry, how long is the road trip? They're on. Now this is game
It
3,
was
4, 5. I guess a
games,
5-gamer.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
The North Carolina State Fair is going on right now, and the state fairgrounds are actually across the street from PNC Arena in Carter Finley Stadium.
Nice.
So they're kind of like in the same vicinity, and it is a nightmare for traffic.
Yeah. I can only imagine. And so you when you see a team like Edmonton come up, last year I should have looked. I can't remember what the record was last year against Edmonton. Carolina always comes in. They play really well. The defense has always been solid. I mean, my biggest curiosity, and maybe we're yet to see because of the teams you've played, but is Burns enough to replace D'Angelo, who had a hell of a season last year? You talked a little bit about Burns. Obviously, Oilers fans know Burns quite well, coming over from San Jose. You said he got his first assist recently. How many minutes is that pairing taking a night, Burns and Slavin? Like, are they,
20 plus.
Yeah, 20 plus.
I want to say in the last, it was either in the Kraken game or the San Jose game. I forget which one, but I mean, it was over 22 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, they're logging tons of ice time, and Burns is for sure an upgrade over Tony D'Angelo. D'Angelo did set, the franchise record for points by a defenseman last year, but Burns exceeded that on a bad San Jose team last year. And Burns is also better defensively than D'Angelo. So yeah, I do think it's an upgrade over Tony for sure.
Yeah.
And again, it is a new team, so you do have that little bit of a period of just getting used to a new team, especially after he spent 11 seasons with San Jose. You figure there's going to be a bit of a period there where things are kind of getting the feel of the new team.
It's going to be weird seeing him in a Canes jersey. I'll tell you that.
It is. It is. And he's already a big fan favorite. Folks are loving having him here. In the home opener, he was going at it with some guys. I remember he was going at it with Boone Jenner pretty good. And folks are cheering him on big time. You're already seeing Burns jerseys and Burns T-shirts all over the arena. Folks are loving it, having him here. And he's not just going to be a one-and-done type guy. He had 3 years left on his deal. So he's going to be here for a little bit too.
Yeah, right on. And you know what? I'm a big Burns fan. Even having watched him, all these years playing San Jose, and you're right, he's a hell of a character. He'd be a good community guy to have, no doubt. Always tough to play against. And just a guy I enjoy watching play. I might not tomorrow night, but we'll see. I've got a question on YouTube about Peter Kochetkov. Goaltender in your system there.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on him?
I think he can really be something special. We kind of saw a glimpse of him last year towards the tail end of the regular season, and in the playoffs, he can be special. Really, I love Freddie and I love Auntie Ranta, but they're not like long term answers in terms of the solution in net. Really since the end of Cam Ward's prime, the Hurricanes have kind of struggled to find like a long term answer there. Because Cam was getting way overplayed, playing hurt, and never had a good quality backup, and which hurt him in terms of his stats, his legacy, and all that. And then you brought in Peter Mrazek, Curtis Smacklin, you brought in James Reimer. You had Alex Nedeljkovic in your system for quite a while, and he could have been the guy. We saw, he was a Calder finalist. Whenever he like finally got like a legit shot rather than just like a 1 or 2 game thing. And that they didn't pursue him long term. Now you got Freddie and Auntie Ranta there, but they're both guys that are on the wrong side of 30. They're both kind of injury prone. They're not going to be the guy 10 years from now, and they're not going to have that stability there. But Piotr, he's special. I think he needs a year in the AHL. Used to the North American style game. We saw, he was really good in the little bit we saw him last year. And I do think we will see him at some point this season, but needs a season there in the AHL to develop. But he does have the potential to be that long-term solution for the Hurricanes, which I think is really going to be key for them just moving forward as an organization. So you're not just having a revolving door every couple years in net.
Yeah, I think that's so valuable, and I think there's one of the fellows that podcast for the Heavy Hockey Network, Dash in the Park, did some looks to see what kind of teams were making the Stanley Cup final year over year, and it was always teams with homegrown goaltending. Which is just such a key and so hard to do, as most people say. It's a bit of voodoo, understanding your goaltenders, but
and Piotr is of course a goalie that he's not going to take anything from any other players. You remember back in the playoffs where he squared up to Brad Marchand and was ready to drop the gloves. In the Wolves home opener, I forget who they were playing, but he met the goalie at center ice and was ready to go.
Well, that's our type of goalie here in Edmonton.
I know. He's endeared himself to the fans already. People love him. You see his jerseys, whether it be a Wolves jersey or a Hurricane shirt, you see them at games. People love the kid, and they're ready for him to get like his like long-term shot. I do think that'll be next year. But ultimately, we'll just have to cross that bridge next year whenever we get to it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. We'll close it up for the night. I kind of one of the things I'm kind of curious about in terms of like this team, where do you see them? Like, are you expecting them to go a little bit further this year? And if you are, which it seems like year over year, there's some expectation that they'll get past that second round. With it hasn't been much luck as of late. But what are your thoughts this year? Is there enough of a change for them to kind of break that gap? And then, I guess, are they playing a little bit of the Tampa Bay game here with Pacioretty sitting on the sidelines until likely the All-Star break? Is that going to make a bit of a difference there as well?
So with Pacioretty, it's not a Tampa Bay type situation of circumventing the cap. He legitimately tore
he had
his
surgery.
Achilles. And we did the math for it. It's like late January, early February should all go right. Basically like your trade deadline type move for him. And I think the big thing for them in the playoffs, if they're going to get past the second round, is offense, because we've seen that every year that since they've been back in the playoffs, it has been the offense dries up and looks like a dry Thanksgiving turkey. And doesn't matter how good the defense is, how good how good the goaltending is. just the offense is not there, and they are not able to put the pucks in the back of the net. And you're not going to win a game if you can't do that. And that was, Pacioretty coming in. That was his role. And same with Brent Burns. We know, can be an offensive force as well. Yeah, they brought in some offensive guys, and they've really tried handing the keys over to their young guys like an Aho, Sveshnikov, Jarvis. Jarvis had a heck of a playoff last year too. If the offense is there, they can make it far. I also think one thing that will play a factor in the playoff run is the health of your goaltending.
Yeah.
Because I've said for quite a while now that they need to manage Freddie's load better this year. They won the Jennings Trophy last year, Anderson and Ranta, but Ranta barely made the cut. He was just like a game or two over the minimum for that. So they need to manage the load a bit better for Freddie, so it's not getting down the stretch. He gets hurt. He tore his MCL last year, and in Denver, I missed the tail end of the season, all of the playoffs, and I don't want that to happen again this year. And then during the playoffs, Ranta got hurt. He sprained his MCL, and then Piotr's coming in, and he was really good, of course, but you. At that point, you want your veteran goalies there. You want the guy that would have been a Vezina finalist had he not gotten hurt. That's what you want there. And I think they need to do a bit better of a job managing the load for their goalies this year, balancing that out so these guys aren't as banged up heading into the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, goaltending is such a key to playoff success. 100%, and being consistent with that offense as you go deep, which was a place where the Oilers were able to excel in their playoff run. I'd say McDavid and Draisaitl did all right in that regard.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to ask you, for those that are listening either live or listening on the podcast, we get a guest that's from away. If Oilers fans are on their way to PNC Arena in Raleigh, right? Where, what's there to do around there? What's it like seating wise? I mean, tell us a little bit about going to a game in Raleigh at PNC.
Yeah. So with PNC Arena, there's actually going to be some renovations coming here within the next year. So what I'm telling you now is in a year or so going to be outdated. So they're going to be working at building up the area around PNC Arena. The big thing right now is of course, the tailgating. Everyone loves the tailgating at Hurricanes games. They're like one of, if not the only team that tailgates at hockey games. And for the home opener, the game was at 7 p.m. Folks are out there at 10 a.m. already nice. Tailgating. Yeah. So tailgating is going to be big coming to a game if you want to do that. Fans are obviously going to be super, super welcoming. There's never a rude fan. Hurricanes fans are always welcoming to other fans. If you're nice to us, we're going to be nice to you.
Nice.
Plain and simple. There's always stuff going out in the South Plaza, whether it be local radio, the local ESPN station, sponsor booths, inflatables, whatever. There is a backyard bistro right across the street where the Hurricanes do like a lot of their radio stuff. They're actually bringing back Kane's Corner, which is where players get interviewed on the radio in front of a live audience, which is always really fun. And like I said, not a whole lot around the arena itself right now, but you go downtown, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. There's Raleigh Beer Garden. They've got the Guinness World Record for most beers on tap. Right 3 stories. And oh god, you're putting me on the spot now too. I'm trying to think of everything.
Lots of good info. What's I guess one question that I'm always curious about because every team's a little bit different. I mean, is it sold out every night? Are you best to go on a local ticket reseller, or are you best to go to the box office to get your tickets? And are the prices of tickets reasonable for
Yeah,
regular
prices of
fans?
tickets are reasonable for sure, and yeah, it's not like it was 10 years ago. You're gonna want to go online and get your tickets, and because you're not, you may be able to get them at the box office every now and again, but yeah, it's not like it used to be where it was half empty or
Yeah,
majority visiting fans. It's not like that anymore. The whole relocation jokes and move them to Quebec, move them to Houston,
yeah,
whatever. It's not the case anymore. It's majority Hurricanes fans, and it's at least 80% full, and that's on a bad night. When it's like the middle of the week and people are at work. you
right on.
know, yeah. I mean, it's not like it used to be. You expect a very lively crowd. Expect it to be very very loud in there, and you know, there's really not a bad seat in the house. With the way the seats are angled, and I personally like to be in either like the high 100s or like or the 200s, because you're like high enough to where you can see the plays develop and whatnot, but you're still like close enough, to like see it really good.
Yeah. All right. Last thing, your thoughts on the game tomorrow? Where do you think? What do you think the end result's going to be?
Well, obviously, I'm going to say it's going to be a Hurricanes win for
Yeah.
sure. We're going to go to 4-0-0, but I do think that this is going to be a big test. I don't think it's going to be an easy win. I don't think it's going to be like the win against Seattle. I do think that this one's going to be it's going to be a battle for sure. This is going to be the first big test for the Hurricanes this year, and especially for the defense going against Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big test, especially for Brent Burns. His first big test as a new member of the Hurricanes blue line, especially your that third pairing, whether it be Calvin DeHaan, Jalen Chatfield, Dylan Coughlin, Ethan Bear, whatever combination of guys you have there. It's going to be a big test for the team this year, and I think they really need to go out there, bring their A game, and avoid those slow starts like we talked about earlier, for sure. Because Edmonton, they're a team that they have some offensive firepower. They have arguably the best player in the world on their team, and they need to be on their A game to be able to stop him so he doesn't rip them to shreds.
Yeah. Well, as a hockey fan, you just got to sometimes sit back and enjoy watching him play because he's he's remarkable, and give some credit to Leon Draisaitl too, who is who's outstanding. And if as a fan, you enjoy them just as much as I enjoy watching Burns play on defense. It's fun to watch, and Svechnikov obviously is a true talent as well. So it should be an exciting one. If I was Brenda Moore, I'd probably put Bear in because ex-Oilers seem to score on the Oilers at pretty much a 100% clip rate as it works. So that would be instant success. And it'd be nice. You know what? It'd be nice to see Ethan Bear playing a Hurricanes jersey in front of the fans at Rogers Place. He was, I think, for a lot of people, a fan favorite. Thank you so much, Jared, for joining me tonight. I know it's late in Raleigh, and I love the black backdrop. Just to kind of highlight that. We'll get this online at heavyhockey.com, and anywhere you get podcasts, you'll be able to listen to it. For those of you listening in, also check out YouTube. We're doing a Heavy Hockey Minute preview before every Oilers game, so you can check that out, and go to heavyhockey.com for the call-outs, standouts, and shout-outs that Ryan Lotze has been writing every day. As I do, Jared, I always, I know you're new to the show, so this kind of interesting. A long time ago, I realized that I talked way too much, and so I do this thing where my guests always get the last word of the night. Can say whatever they want, if they, in your case, you talk about the Hurricanes, talk about whatever. The only thing I say is when you're done talking, is you sign off by saying good night so that I know when to hit the exit button. And I'll ask you to stick around for a couple minutes just to chat. But really appreciate where you being here tonight, and looking forward to a good game. Two solid teams. I think the Oilers have had some troubles early, but I'd like to think they're going to right that ship. They should be hungry tomorrow night against the Hurricanes, and it should be a good game. It'd be nice to see two talented teams go at it that maybe at some point might see each other again in the finals, with, let's hope this time, a different result.
I don't know about that. I don't know about all that.
Yeah. What I will tell you to say, though, Jared, is let everybody know where they find you, a little bit about you, and whatever else you want to say. I'm putting myself on mute. Just remember to say goodnight, and I'll shut her down for the evening. You're on.
All right, folks. So I'll just give you a quick word on what you can expect from the Hurricanes this year. Expect big seasons from Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov. Sebastian Aho, he's going back to the All-Star game. He's going to be breaking a 90-point season for sure this year. I think he could be the second Hurricane in history following Eric Stahl to break a 100-point season. Andrei Svechnikov, I say he gets his first All-Star game as well this year. Expect the pairing of Jacob Slavin and Brent Burns to be one of, if not the best defensive pairing in the NHL once they start going. I think that this is going to be an absolutely lethal pairing. Folks really thought the Dougie Hamilton, Jacob Slavin pairing was really good years ago. I think this one can be even better. Freddie Anderson, should he be healthy, he's going to be a Vezina finalist again. And like I said earlier, that if this team, if they have the offense going in the playoffs, they're making a run for sure. I guarantee it. But folks, I am going to quote one of my favorite professional wrestlers in the world. Don't hate me, but he's from Winnipeg. The one, the only Kenny Omega. Goodbye and good night.